Step 1 is freeze secondary agencies. Freeze secondary agencies refers to placing a security freeze on credit reports maintained by credit bureaus beyond the three major ones, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, like Innovis or check systems, to further limit access to your information and protect against identity theft. A security freeze, also known as a credit freeze, restricts access to your credit report, preventing creditors from accessing it to open new accounts in your name without your permission. By freezing your credit reports with the major bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, you can significantly reduce the risk of identity theft and unauthorized credit applications. While the major bureaus are the most important to freeze, some people choose to freeze their reports with other credit bureaus like Innovis or check systems, which may contain information about utility or bank accounts. You can typically place a security freeze online, by phone, or by mail with each credit bureau. You may need to temporarily lift the freeze to apply for credit or other services that require access to your credit report. Check systems. Check Systems is a credit reporting agency that focuses on checking the creditworthiness of individuals for checking and savings accounts. Innovis. Innovis is another credit reporting agency that provides credit reports to lenders. Freezing with the major bureaus. You can freeze your credit reports with the three major bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, online, by phone, or by mail. Freeze secondary agencies into it, all right. So step number 1 of fixing your own credit is you have to freeze all of these secondary credit reporting agencies. Now these secondary credit reporting agencies are LexisNexis, Ars, Innovis, and CoreLogic. Now the reason you want to freeze those secondary agencies is because everybody knows about Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. But what most people don't know is that when it comes time for you to dispute negative items on your credit report, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax use the secondary agencies that I just listed to verify the negative items on your report so that they can keep them there. But when you freeze your credit report with those secondary agencies before you send out the dispute letters when it comes time for you to dispute negative items, when Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax try to verify those items with the secondaries, they're not going to be able to because your report is frozen, thus increasing your chances and the efficiency of your ability to get those negative items off of your credit report. Step number 2 of fixing your own credit. Step 2. Remove personal identifiers. Removing personal identifiers refers to the process of eliminating information that can directly or indirectly identify an individual, such as name, address, phone number, or other unique characteristics, from data or content. These are pieces of information that immediately reveal someone's identity, such as their full name, social security number, or physical address. Indirect identifiers. These are pieces of information that, when combined with other data, can potentially lead to an individual's identification, such as date of birth, zip code, or specific job title. Why it's important? Removing personal identifiers is crucial for data privacy and security, especially when dealing with sensitive data or research involving individuals. How it's done. Anonymization. This involves removing all identifying information, making it impossible to link the data back to a specific individual. Pseudonymization. This involves replacing direct identifiers with pseudonyms or codes, allowing data to be linked back to individuals if needed, but only with a separate key or code. Examples. A researcher might anonymize patient data to protect their privacy in a study. A company might pseudonymize customer data to analyze purchasing trends while maintaining some level of traceability. Tools and techniques. Various tools and techniques can be used to remove or redact personal identifiers from data, including data masking, hashing, and encryption. Legal and ethical considerations. Many regulations and ethical guidelines exist regarding the handling of personal data, including the removal of identifiers. Credit is that you're going to call into TransUnion call in the Equifax and Experian and remove all of your excess personal identifiers on your credit report. So what are personal identifiers, right? So simply put, personal identifiers are all of the names, addresses, and employers that are showing on your credit report. So any of those things that you have in excess, meaning that if you have like 4 or 5 different names, right? Whether your name is Mary Joseph and then another name after that says Mary G. Joseph and the name after that it says Joseph G. Mary, and so forth and so on. Same thing for addresses, right? If you live at 123 Wallaby Road and you see old addresses that are there that you no longer live at, or old employers there that you no longer work for, get all of those items removed that aren't connected to open accounts. Reason being is because once again the bureaus are going to try and use any and everything that is under the sun to verify why they need to keep these negative items on your report. But when you remove things like excess personal identifiers from your report, it increases the efficiency of your ability to get these negative items off. Call bureaus refers to the three major credit reporting agencies, CRAs, in the U.S., Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, which collect and store data about your credit history and provide credit reports to lenders and other authorized parties. What they do: collect and compile information. Credit bureaus gather data from creditors, like banks, credit card companies, and lenders, about your credit activity, including loan payment history, credit limits, and account balances. Create credit reports. This data is used to create credit reports, which are summaries of your credit history. Provide credit reports to authorized parties. Lenders, employers, insurers, and others who have a legitimate reason to access your credit information can request and view your credit reports from the bureaus. Don't make lending decisions. It's important to note that credit bureaus don't decide whether you'll get a loan or what interest rate you'll receive. Lenders use the information in your credit report to make those decisions. The three major credit bureaus: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Why they're important: creditworthiness. Your credit report and credit score, which are based on the information in your credit report, are used to assess your credit worthiness, which is how likely you are to repay debts. Access to credit. A good credit score can help you get access to loans, credit cards, and other credit products at favorable terms. Other uses. Credit reports can also be used by employers, landlords, and other businesses to make decisions about you. How to access your credit reports. You can request a free copy of your credit report from each of the three major credit bureaus annually through annualcreditreport.com. Now, one question I get all the time is, Ted, what are the numbers that you're using to call into the bureau? I'm going to put all three direct lines for the credit bureaus that I use on the screen right now that you guys can use for Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. I'm going to put an asterisk next to the one for Equifax, though, because I will speak from my own personal experience and say, for whatever reason, I've always had an extremely difficult time getting on the phone with anybody at Equifax, Experian, Easy, TransUnion. Easy, Equifax, they are terrible, right? But I'm still going to give you guys all the three numbers that I typically use, right? So that way you can use these same numbers to call in to get those excess personal identifiers removed. So now that you've frozen your credit report with the secondary agencies and you've removed any and all excess personal identifiers from your credit report, it is now time to dispute, which brings us to step number 3, which is you're going to use a 609 letter to dispute any and all negative items on your credit report. Now, for those of you that may be curious, simply put, a 609 letter is simply a letter that references a section in the Fair Credit Reporting Act stating that any and all items that are reporting on your credit report by the credit bureaus need to be accurate and verifiable, right? So, this is a very basic, standard, straightforward letter that you can use to start disputing on your behalf to getting these negative items off. A redispute letter, also known as a chargeback rebuttal letter or a dispute response, is a formal document used to challenge an initial dispute or chargeback, presenting evidence to prove the original transaction was valid or that the dispute is unjustified. A redispute letter is a crucial component of the dispute representment process, allowing merchants or cardholders to respond to a chargeback or dispute and provide evidence to support their position. The primary purpose of a redispute letter is to explain why the initial chargeback or dispute is invalid and to present supporting evidence to demonstrate the legitimacy of the transaction. Chargebacks. When a cardholder disputes a transaction, a chargeback is initiated, which is a reversal of the payment. Dispute. Representment. Merchants have the right to challenge the chargeback through the dispute representment process, where they can present evidence to prove the transaction was legitimate. A well-written redispute letter should include a clear explanation of why the chargeback is unjustified, a summary of the case and the evidence that supports the claim, the chargeback reason code, the amount in dispute, supporting evidence such as purchase receipts, shipping confirmations, or other relevant documents. Now, before you send out that 609 letter, there are a couple things that I need you guys to keep in mind. Number 1, whenever you're putting together your 609 letter to send to the bureaus, never put more than 10 negative items and/or accounts on that letter. Right? The reason being is because you never want to put too much to where the bureaus are labeling you as a frivolous dispute, right? So if you have 30 negative accounts or 40 negative accounts that you need to get removed, or your report only put 10 of those accounts, dispute those off first, then move on to the next 10, and then the next 10, and then the next 10. Otherwise, once you're labeled as a frivolous disputer by the bureaus, this now will hurt your chances of getting those items off efficiently. And step number 4 to fixing your own credit is that after you send your first round of letters, any negative items that weren't removed in the first round, you are going to redispute in the second round moving forward, right? So when it comes to setting out these disputes, you want to send out a new round of letters every 30 to 45 days right now. This is the part of the process where my clients try and chop my head off, and people still to this day don't seem to understand. But credit repair does not happen overnight. Especially if you have like 4 negative student loan accounts, a bankruptcy, a couple charge-offs and collections, it takes time, and not all accounts are going to get deleted and removed within the first round. That's why you have to continue to send out rounds of letters every 30 to 45 days for any negative items you don't get off. Now for myself, when it comes to getting items off, I've had certain clients that I've sent 609 letters out for and got negative items removed within the first round of disputing that for other clients took 4 to 5, sometimes even 6 rounds of disputing. Every credit report is not the same, so it's important for you that throughout this process, if you're persistent, if you're diligent, if you stay on top of it, you will get results. But above all else, you have to be patient once again. It's not going to happen overnight now, as much as I would love to dive even more into the world of credible prayer. If I was to really break down how to effectively and efficiently dispute on every single round and every nook and cranny of credit repair, it would take forever. And quite frankly, I just don't have the time. But I wanted to do something special for you guys. Alright, so let's talk more about just credit repair secrets that you need to know. I got 6 tips that will really change the way you repair your own credit. Okay, I'm a DIY credit repair advocate over here. I feel like you can do it yourself, but you just need to know what credit repair specialists know. Okay, so number 1, personal information matters. I know a lot of times we want to skip this step and we want to jump right into disputing the derogatory items on our credit report because we're looking to gain points, but cleaning up your profile really matters here. Oftentimes, creditors will validate your debts and validate the things that you're disputing based off what's in your personal information section, so there's no need for an address that you no longer live at to still be on your credit report, especially if it may be tied to a collection that's on your credit report. Okay, so you want to clean up this information. Another reason why you want to clean up your personal information, because when you're in the rebuilding stage of your credit repair process, you may look a little bit more risky to lenders if you have an excessive amount of addresses, telephone numbers, and employers, because it looks like you can't seem to stay in one spot and it seems like you don't have a consistent flow of income because you're bouncing around from one place to the next. So you want to just have it boil down to just one name, one address, being the one that you reside at one employer or two, especially if you work multiple jobs, But you want to appear stable to lenders, okay? And you want to lower the chances of a debt collector validating a debt just based off of what's in your personal information section, especially if a debt may be tied to an address that you no longer live in. So see you in 48 hours, okay? So number 2 would be, guys, when you are paying your debts. Don't just make the assumption that because you paid a debt that it's going to be removed from your credit report. You want to get everything in black and white. You need concrete proof that the creditor is going to delete the account if you pay the agreed settlement amount. Okay, so don't just go pay an account, pay a collection, pay a charge-off account, pay any type of account. Specifically, the ones that are derogatory that you're looking to get deleted. Don't just pay an account with the assumption that is going to be removed just because you paid. You need the creditor to agree to delete, and you need it in writing, especially if they don't delete it right away once the account has been marked as paid by the credit bureaus, and it's just reporting a 0 balance. No, you need that derogatory item removed completely. So again, do not just make the assumption that because you pay a debt that it's going to be removed. You have to get them to agree in writing, and I would prefer you have it in writing. Okay, don't just take a verbal agreement because they can't go back on their word and then it turns into he said, she say. Okay, so get it in writing, guys. Alright, number 3, if you make a payment or acknowledge a day is yours by agreeing to pay. That means if you call a debt collector, you call a creditor, especially on a debt that is charged off that's close, that still has a balance. If you do these things, you could potentially restart the statute of limitations on this debt. Meaning that this applies into a statute of limitations, meaning the credit reporting time, so the time that it's allowed to report on your credit report, which is based off the date of last activity. So if you go calling about a debt, inquiring about a debt, making a promise to pay over the phone, you will potentially restart the statute of limitations on this debt. meaning that it will stay on your credit report longer because that's a new form of activity that has been made on this account that can be notated by the creditor and reported to the credit bureaus. Also, if you go calling in or making the payment on the debt, especially a partial payment, the debt that is still within the statute of limitations, you run the risk of being sued. So what you might want to do is shut up, shut your mouth, and leave it alone if you have you're not looking to pay the debt in full. You're not looking to do a pay for deletion. Leave them alone if you are not in a position to be able to do so. Don't go calling, inquiring, acknowledging, messing around with accounts that's about to fall off your credit that is, about to get out of the statute of limitations. Leave that alone before you start disputing. Wait until you're in the safe zone and the debt falls out of the statute of limitations before you go calling and inquiring about a debt. Okay, leave it alone. Number 4. Just because you disputed a debt and got it removed from your credit report does not mean that your financial obligations to the debt are waived like it's forgiven unless the creditor has told you so. Unless you've got it in writing that the debt is too old to collect and it's too old for you to make a payment. Unless you got something in writing stating that. Don't just assume because you got an account removed that your obligation to pay is done. So let's take a collection for example. All right, to get the collection removed right, it's removed, they were unable to validate the debt, they were unable to do whatever they removed the account after you've sent in a dispute letter. Now, the original creditor who sold the debt, just because they sold the debt doesn't mean that you're no longer obligated to pay them, or that debt collector, whoever write it, just means that that debt, it's not on your credit report anymore. Now that original creditor could still go and sell that debt to someone else, or that debt collector could then turn the debt over to someone else. So the best way to eliminate debt being resold over and over again is to make a payment arrangement with the source, ideally being the original creditor. So if you can get that original creditor to agree to accept your payment, then that will stop the debt from being sold over and over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, so you want to go to the source to stop it all together. I never say it goes to the debt collector. Okay, I said go to the source. If the original creditor is willing to accept your payment, then make the payment with them. That way it can stop being resold. Now, if the debt is too old, leave that alone. And if you got proof that the debt is too old, keep it, meaning your credit report being a letter that you receive from a collector, which is usually in the fine print. It'll say that this debt is too old for you to be sued. You can make a payment if you want to, basically. And they're just looking to get payment, but it's usually in the fine print. They don't make that bold for you to know. You have to actually read the notice. Okay, so yeah, definitely know that. Before you just go make a payment on that, or I'm just assuming that just because you just speeded a debt, then that means that you're no longer responsible for the debt, all right? Okay, so number 5, you don't need to send in your disputes via certified mail. I know that you've heard before in the past, and maybe at one point that it was really vital, but since the pandemic, things with the bureaus and as far as disputes, it's been a little slower than usual with them getting back to you, and certified mail doesn't mean that you're more of a priority to the bureaus. It just means that you don't know when they received your dispute letter and you are able to calculate, how long it took them to respond, whether or not they responded or ignored your dispute. And then you could go on to either sue them for not responding or file a complaint against them with the fraud for not responding to your dispute within the 30-day time period that they're allotted to respond back to you. Now, I only suggest sending in certified dispute letters to collection agencies because they are required to respond to you within 30 days if you are responding to a debt validation letter that they sent you before the collection is actually on your report. So I will just say to send certified mail to collection agencies, but you do not have to. It's not a requirement. This is just something to keep track. You know what I mean? So there's another tip. This will also save you money as well. Number 6, freezing. Your credit reports does not stop anyone such as Nexus, for example, from assessing your credit report. It doesn't help you when it comes to disputing items because you have to think about what you're saying. You're going to freeze your credit report and you're going to dispute an account with Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, like the credit monitoring companies, the credit bureaus who already have access to your report. Freezing your report doesn't stop them from being able to review your credit report. They already have access to this information. Actually, the companies that we do business with are giving them the information. Okay, so it doesn't help with your disputes. It doesn't keep any company. When you're disputing something from them, from assessing your credit profiles, they are still able to see it. It doesn't help with bankruptcies. It doesn't help you know that may have been a tactic in the past. That's why I try to keep information updated, to let you guys know that things that once worked back then probably won't work now, so it doesn't help speed up your process. It doesn't keep the credit bureaus out. What freezing your credit report does is protect you from identity theft. It keeps companies and potential who are finding your information. It keeps them from opening an account in your name without your permission. It keeps companies from running your credit reports, assessing your credit report without your permission. It will stop you if you forget to remove the freeze when you're trying to apply for something. It just helps in that matter. But when it comes to disputes, so pressing or freezing your credit report, it doesn't help with disease. Okay, but that's just something else I want you guys to know. And these are things a lot of people don't know, but it helps when you're repairing your own credit to know certain things. A credit repair specialist know already because you can do this on your own. You don't really need anybody else to do it. So, guys, if you're interested, I don't want to talk your ear off with the benefits, but the link to the classes are down in the description below. Tap in, get it, and let me know how you enjoy it in the comments as well. But that concludes it all for this video. I sincerely do hope it was of great help, informative and entertaining throughout the entirety of this video. I'm Ted Strokes. Y'all have been good. I've been great. This has been amazing. And as always, thank you and God bless you. I hope that you enjoyed this video on how to repair your credit and why you should never pay a debt collector and a collection agency if you haven't done so already. And if you found value in this content, would you mind sharing it with someone that you think is committing the biggest mistake that they could be making with their credit? And if you haven't done so already, you guys already know the drill. Take a second. If you haven't already, take a minute, take an hour out of your day right here, right now, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. And if you found value in this content, tap that like button because it lets YouTube know that this is information worth sharing with other people. Show this video some love. It really does help a lot with the YouTube algorithm in terms of pushing a video out there so that more and more people can see it. Tap that notification bell and join the notification squad so you can be notified every time we have content like this, dropping each and every single week. Once again, my name is Ted Strokes, also known as Ted Stroke the Billionaire. And until next time, everyone, we'll see you. Thank you and peace.